Oh my Lord, I am screaming, doing backflips. What? Who in the fuck are you calling a taxpayer, bro? Because if they say taxpayer and you don't rebut it, that's also a little bit dangerous. Excuse me, Mr. Person who is subject to internal revenue tax. And you go, yes, you see? What would you like to say, their good friend? And they go, ha ha. So you do admit it. It's way beyond jurisdiction. I mean, you are literally a vapor. How can you imprison a vapor?
All right, so I feel like we scrambled everybody's brains. All right, welcome to the New Age Human Podcast. Today, we're talking with Brandon Joe Williams, who is an author, negotiable instruments attorney, and foreign national of the Amnesty Coalition. Brandon empowers individuals to question conventional understanding of law, and he provides insights on wealth creation, debt discharge, and personal sovereignty. Now, as a disclosure, this is not legal advice, and expect more explicit language in this episode. You have been warned. Brief overview of what we're talking about. The United States of America is a corporation, and we have been employees ever since that corporation was created. We will touch on this in the episode, so don't worry. And yes, your birth certificate is part of this. Since the restructuring of our country after the Civil War, this system of control has been in place, largely unnoticed by the public until recently. If this sounds insane, I'm right there with you. This episode is to help demystify these claims and give you a head start into accessing true freedom and escaping the matrix of unnecessary taxes, laws, and increasing attack on our personal prosperity. So, with that said, buckle your seatbelts, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye. Let's get to the show. All right. Brandon Joe Williams, welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's hot over here in Connecticut. I know you're in Cali. I don't know if is it really hot over there right now?
Oh, yeah. It's a dry heat, so it's not too bad, but it's definitely hot. It's probably 95 or something.
I think the last time I was in California, I was in San Francisco, where it's just the elevation gets nuts. And people were telling me sometimes the temperature changes like 10, 20 degrees depending on where you are at a given time. I'm not sure if you go out that way, but I thought that was interesting.
Crazy enough, living in LA for a total of 15 years or something like that, I've never been to San Francisco, which I know is batshit crazy. I was broke most of the time I've been living out here. So, but anyways, I will definitely be going to San Fran at some point in time.
Well, I mean, I grew up in New York and Connecticut, and I still haven't visited the Statue of Liberty. So there's that. All right. So today, for everybody that's listening, we're going to be going into some very interesting subject matter. It's going to blow your brain. Brandon has a very interesting background where you've been diving into a lot of law, and a lot of it has been freeing ourselves from the matrix, so to speak. And so a lot of us listening are used to thinking outside the box when it comes to like metaphysics and stuff. But this is actually very grounding of a subject, but then at the same time, it's very out of the box, and it's kind of hard to describe where it would sit, you know? Like, it's grounding, but at the same time, I'm like, someone would tell me, you're crazy. I'm like, no, this is actually real. I mean, in the beginning of this whole deal, what was it like when you started to try to share this?
I didn't. I was church mouse quiet about it for about 6 months. Wow. And then by the time I was ready to share it is when I launched the website. So when I launched the website, that was when I started sharing the information. I mean, prior to that point,
nuts.
There was very little sharing that was attempted.
That's interesting because I know people that fall into this information. We're going to get into it. And they start telling people, and you did the exact opposite. But on top of that, you just went hardcore into educating the masses, which is very interesting. You went from 0 to 100 real quick.
By the time I was ready to start talking about it, oh yeah, I mean, it was the course was launched, or I'm sorry, not the course, the website, which was only text-based at that time. We didn't have any branding. We didn't have the logo. We didn't have the, it was just Brandon Joe Williams, onestupidfuck.com, but there was no logo. There was no pickles. There was none of that. in the free contract killer course, you can actually see that original version of the website when I'm reading it in the course. That's actually the original version. And then that was March 14th of 2022. And then for 3 months, I did nothing but expand and rewrite and correct the website over and over again, like every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. And then in June, May, June, and then very, very early July 2nd of 2022. So May and June, I was shooting all the video for the free contract killer course. And then July 2nd, 2022 is when I launched the free contract killer course. And then by August, I hired a publicist. And I was getting on podcasts, and by the end of 2022, I was doing 5 or 6 shows a week, all around 2-3 hours each. And that continued from about October or November of 2022 all the way until maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I started to cut down on 5 or 6 shows a week because all the litigation stuff that I'm currently involved in is very taxing. And it just kind of was becoming a bit too much for me.
Well, sure, man.
So I backed off on the shows in order to focus more on the litigation. And then now the litigation's sort of cooling down. But I'm building 12 or 13 new cases that'll be filed within the next probably 60, 70 days. So that's the kind of like the timeline. And then by the time I started doing lots of shows and the contract killer course was out by about August, September of 2022, that's when we started to see some serious uptick. So if you look at my graph all the way from the beginning, it was like 300 people a month were coming to the website for the first 3 months. So it's just like way down at the bottom. And then the free course, and then we have this huge upshift. And then I start going on all the podcasts, and then we have a huge upshift, and then it just literally just goes up, all the way through to 2024. And then by 2024, we've been right around 80,000 a month to the website every single month,
Wow.
like clockwork.
That's a lot of eyeballs, man.
Yeah.
Huh. So let's go into. I think everybody would appreciate learning about how you found out about changing your status and how you felt about that, because once you learn about this, there's a lot of confusion, doubt, and excitement all in one bubble. So I'm actually curious, like, how that happened for you. I have an idea. I remember listening to 1 or 2 of the other podcasts, but I would love the audience to get a feel for your experience.
Yeah, I had a landscaping company that I've had for a while now, and I just walked away from it recently, actually, about a week, 10 days ago. I stepped down as a trustee, just due to way too much going on right now. When I first took over that company, it was very, very stressed. It was in all sorts of disarray, and it was actually structured as a corporation. And so the Employment Development Department, which is the payroll mafia of California, decided they wanted to trespass onto one of my job sites that was actually at a client's home. So they were actually trespassing on their property, and also sort of illegally interrogating my staff. I don't call the people who work inside the trust employees, because that's actually a very strange term when you actually go down the rabbit hole. I actually call them performers, sort of like what you would call like an entertainer. And they're just people who perform. That's the definition of a performer. So if anyone asks, do you have any employees, and what employees? And I don't have any employees. Relax. You can go away now. I have performers. Oh, you mean like entertainers? I mean, nope. People who perform on behalf of my trust. That's it.
Huh.
Very simple, right? So not trustees either. So they say, are they trustees? No. And then by that point, they're so confused, they usually just go away, which is fantastic. But the Employment Development Department decided they wanted to send me a very large bill that they manufactured and pulled straight out of their asshole. And that is where this story began, because I had a very close friend of mine. He still works there. And another friend of mine, 3 really close friends working for this trust. landscaping. And
I want to pause right there real quick. I'm actually noticing that you already had a good handle on verbiage and words before you getting into this, because I'm thinking you had changed your status before what you were doing at that point, because you're like, I didn't have employees, I had performers. So you were already working with.
No, I didn't rename that until later.
Oh, okay.
All this happened around that time. I was like going to different accountants and lawyers, and they were telling me just make a payment plan, and I was telling them like, fuck you, why would I make a payment plan? It doesn't make any sense. And that's when I figured out about trusts versus corporations. And then I opened a trust, and then I got the EIN number for the trust, and then I opened the bank accounts, and then I moved all the cash and all the credit card transactions and everything into the trust, and then I told the EDD to go fuck themselves. And they sent me a couple threatening letters. I sent them a couple threatening letters, and then they just went away. But I didn't really, even after that experience, didn't really totally know everything. I didn't know a lot of things. I just knew that now I had a trust, a non-statutory trust, which means a trust that isn't open under the governmental umbrella. I didn't go to the government to register. I didn't get it from the government. It was open between myself and some friends. So, yeah, it's a interesting situation, because when you get the trust all set up, that was my first experience, then these government agencies such as the IRS or anybody else, they can't touch it, they can't get into it, they can't even see it anymore. It becomes invisible to the radars entirely.
It's nuts.
So when I found out about this and I did this, I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. And then by the time I had completed that, and I had already transferred everything into a non-statutory private irrevocable trust, and I started to learn how that works, and I opened up the accounts and moved all the credit card processing over and did all the good stuff. At that point, I had opened up, or at least viewed, a lot of other doorways that were very, very fascinating, and I wanted to continue to go down these various rabbit holes and various research lines. And that is essentially where all of this started and what it became to what it is today. And that research has continued every single day. And I left my day job last year in October or September. And then I left the landscaping company as a trustee about maybe 10 days, 14 days ago. So slowly but surely, my life has become more and more and more centric to focusing completely and entirely on the subject, and anything else that has anything else to do with literally anything else has been slowly removed from my life piece by piece. And now we're at a point now where this is pretty much all day, every day, everything, and anyone or anything that comes in between me and making that happen is typically removed from my life.
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah.
When I know you've been on a lot of shows since you started this process of just sharing what true freedom is. When you go to start to describe, I want to start diving into like, what is it that you did and what is it that you're helping people with, which is essentially changing your status from a U.S. citizen to an American state national. And for the audience, how would you best describe what that is and what that means to them? I'll tell you what I've been doing. I've been starting from the Civil War and then going from there, because I feel like an event that someone kind of has an idea of what happened, giving some clarity to what happened and then how that trickles down now helps people. But I'm actually curious, how do you do it? Assuming that anybody listening has no idea what we're talking about.
Well, I have a presentation I usually do on these shows. I can do the whole presentation if you want.
Sure. How long would that be?
45 minutes to an hour, something like that.
Let's go.
All righty. Let's make some magic happen, huh?
So you're able to have access? Perfect. Okay, cool.
So I've done this a million times. It's changed a little bit here and there. There's been a couple of huge breakthroughs that have really changed a lot. But
Nice.
this presentation I'm going to give here is the same one I've done, many, many times, especially for the past several months. But the way it works is when you go online, you type in these string of numbers and then this thing here in the middle and then this weird symbol and then this string of numbers. What you're looking at is for example, the United States Code. This is the Cornell Law School, right? All I did was just type that into the internet, by the way, 28 U.S.C. 3002. I didn't type in the little section symbol, as you can see.
Got it.
The first number, the 28 that you saw there, represents the title. So you'll see here title, basically the major sections of the United States Code, right? Title, it goes up to currently Title 54, right? And each one has different aspects. Like one of the major ones that we get into a lot, obviously, is Title 8, which is about aliens and nationality. Banking is Title 12, which is a good one for a lot of the things that we do. We get into Title 42 quite a bit, which is the public health and welfare. And also the whole driving versus traveling and all that good stuff and license plates and driver's license. We get into Title 49, which is transportation quite a bit. But Title 28 is the one we're going to be looking at now, which is judiciary and judicial procedure. And so the way you read this is this first number is the title, and then you have the body of law, which is the United States Code. This is a section symbol, and then we have it's section 3002. We're going to go down to subsection 15. United States means a federal corporation, right? So you have a lot of people talking about, is the United States a corporation and blah blah blah. It is a corporation, but it's a type of corporation called a federal corporation. Ironically enough, the word federal is also capitalized, which does have significance, but we're probably not going to get into that right now, or maybe we will later on the show. The next thing I usually show people, which is probably the most important thing you'll ever learn in law, honestly, it's one of the most important things. There's probably two areas in all of law that are the most important areas. Both of them we will cover, but this is definitely one of those two. Title 26 is the Internal Revenue Code, the tax code. Title 26 of the United States Code, Section 7701, subsection A1, is the definition of the word person. There's two things, like I said, in all of law. This is one of the two most important things you'll ever learn in all of law. The term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, a trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation. So if you take this definition and you combine it here with this idea, United States is a person. And you will see that in criminal cases where you have United States versus John Doe. If you look in the jurisdiction and venue section of the criminal lawsuit, it'll say something like United States is a person as per blah, 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 blah. They're pretty clear about that. This is not some secret information or something like that. So United States is a corporation and it is a person. And the first thing we need to figure out is where is that person called United States located, right? We're going to go to a different body of law in order to figure that out, called the Uniform Commercial Code. Now, this one is the same shit, but it runs a little differently. So this first number is called Article, and then this is the section number. So the way you would read this is Article 9 of the Uniform Commercial Code, Section 307. Or you can say Uniform Commercial Code, Article 9, Section 307. Whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to go down to subsection H. And subsection H states the location of the person called United States. Location of United States. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. Now you ask yourself where, how large, what size. So essentially the District of Columbia is a country, and there's a state inside that country called United States, which is no different than California or in the European Union, France. Just because it's called United States, that's all just deceiving terminology. You could say it could be called, you could take this guy's name, Mesriani, and just call it, Mesrianiville. So Mesrianieville is a state inside of District of Columbia. You could say the same thing. United States is a state inside of the District of Columbia. Now, the problem is we don't know where in the District of Columbia. We don't know what size, what shape, what coordinates. We don't know where. I've never seen any information that clarifies inside of the District of Columbia where or how large or what size this state or person called United States is inside of it. So even if you were born in Washington, D.C., if someone said you were born in the United States, well, that would be up for debate. Because the thing is that the person who said that would be the one who'd be burdened with the idea of proving it. And I'll tell you right now, if I've never found proof as to the location and size of the state called United States, I'll bet a lot of fucking money that no one else is going to be able to find it either. I may find it one day, but man, I've looked. I can't find it anywhere. And frankly, I'm of the opinion at this point that there is no physical delineated coordinates. Meaning, and we're going to go over this in the next section of this presentation, meaning there is no physical location of United States. It's never been published. It's never been clarified. That's what I think. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
And it's in a filing cabinet somewhere, so we don't know. But it's interesting how like you have the capital letter state, but that's just paperwork. It's not a physical location, which is even hard for many to even digest.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later, the two different versions of each state. We'll get into that later, right? So the next thing is 42 USC 9102, subsection 18. Now, one of the things that people have asked me many times on shows that are live and stuff like that is they go, well, Brandon, if a corporation is a person, then can a corporation be a United States citizen? And you go online, you start typing this stuff in, and there's a lot of websites that are like, well, and they try to beat around the bush because they don't want to get people getting weird and asking too many questions. The answer to that question is yes, resoundingly. And you can see that in 42 USC 9102, subsection 18, and then subsection C of subsection 18. United States citizen means, and then if we go to C, any corporation, partnership, association, or other entity organized or existing under the laws of the United States.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
So any corporation, partnership, association, or other entity is a person, and those persons, if they are organized or existing under the laws of the United States, those persons, as completely separate persons from you, are in themselves independently considered United States citizens. So your businesses, your S corps, your C corps, your LLCs, your partnerships, your associations, and your statutory trusts are all individually and independently from you and one another, all independently and individually United States citizens. Now, when we start getting into you as an individual, we're going to be looking at subsection A of 42 USC 9102, subsection 18. And this one says United States citizen means A, any individual who is a citizen of the United States by law, birth, or naturalization. Law means contract. Birth, as far as I'm concerned, is up for a lot of debate. Naturalization, in my opinion, you could just take out these words pretty much, not quite, but pretty much, and just have this one word, and it would actually make a lot more sense. And it would be a lot more workable, and it'd be a lot less confusing.
Do you ever go into when someone gets born, right, and you go to the doctor is docking the birth, the vessel, and all that, or is that just completely unnecessary? Because I feel like that's just a lot of wordplay that could be true, but you're just going down an unnecessary rabbit hole.
Who cares? It doesn't, I'm not here to talk about shit and jerk myself off. I'm here to actually get some things done. You know what I mean? So I don't see the value in that information. It may or may not be true. I just don't care. And I think that Jordan Maxwell and a lot of these guys cared very much, and they were trying to share information that they thought was going to be helpful. I'm not degrading anything that Jordan Maxwell has done. He's an excellent man with an excellent teaching style, and he has excellent information, and he's very grandfatherly and an excellent person, and I love him to death. But I just don't see the point in it. I don't see the value in it, and I don't see how I can take that information and put it to the ground, put the rubber to the ground with that necessarily.
No, I get it.
So naturalization. That's where we're at. So what do we have so far on a recap? We've got United States as a person. It's located in the District of Columbia. We don't know where. A United States citizen becomes, a citizen of this unknown state called the United States through what Brandon Joe Williams considers naturalization. Okay, now the next question obviously is, well, what the hell is naturalization? And nobody knows. I've never had anyone ever, including when I do live speeches in front of an audience, give me any definition that comes even remotely close to what the definition of naturalization is. The definition of naturalization comes from Title 8, Section 1, Title 8 of the United States Code, Section 1101, subsection A, 23. And here is the definition right here. And this is, so like I said, there's two of the most powerful things you'll ever learn in law. Number one is the definition of the word person. And number two, and actually I would go so far as to say is I'm not even sure, this might be actually even more important than the definition of the word person. But definitely of the two most important pieces of information you'll ever learn, naturalization is definitely the number one or number two spot. The term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. And we're going to break down every single word inside this definition, because this one single definition can radically change your life more than anything you've ever experienced in your entire life has ever changed your life. And this one definition can change the life of everyone around you and everyone you talk to more dramatically than almost anything that anyone has ever experienced in their entire life.
I just would like to add that there's a lot of people out there that take words for granted, have no idea what they mean, and it's very interesting how your background in research with words has played a key role in your ability to break this stuff down. Like you just said, is very important with these words. And when I have a conversation with people about this, we just toss around words all the time. And then when you try to go and find the definition, it's like, where do you go? And your source of definitions, it would have to be, because we're speaking legalese, it would have to be within the confines of the definitions within that language. And where do you usually go? Or what's your most up-to-date, source?
I go everywhere. I mean, that's where all the fun happens. That's where all the excitement is. I don't know. I go all over the place. I go wherever I need to go to get that popping. I mean, whatever. I mean, that's the fun of it. That's the Easter egg hunt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, do you ever run into a situation where the definitions are slightly skewed and you just have to decide which one, or is it more of finding the source material? Because you're doing an Easter egg hunt, but how do you know which one's the right one?
Well, you have to keep looking, and sometimes you got to look inside of court cases, and you got to keep looking, you got to keep searching, you got to look at normal dictionaries and legal dictionaries and multiple legal dictionaries, and there's certain words like the word citizen. I've never really completely fully nailed down that word, even though I've tried for ungodly amount of hours. I've definitely got a pretty good handle of it, but I don't feel like I've completed my research into the term citizen.
That's interesting.
And I've worked on trying to complete that research. I re-enter the fray on trying to figure out the word citizen all the time. And I may move the ball down the field a few yards here and there. I feel like I'm on the maybe 75-yard line when it comes to the word citizen. And I've got probably 50 or 60 or 70 hours clocked in just on that one word.
That's insane.
So, it just depends on what you're looking at and what word you're looking at. The words we're going to look at right now, nation and state and body politic, those took me quite a long time to figure out. But yeah, it's all part of just piecing it all together in a way that makes sense, and you just get all the pieces that you need, and you might only get a few pieces now, and then you get a few pieces later, like the word citizen. I may be working on the word citizen for years without it being a completed project. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of context, and the court cases that you're talking about. I agree, and those would be really good source for it, just because it's proven. But I'll let you continue. Just very curious.
Yeah, Black's Law Dictionary is just a bunch of, typically, not always, but it's a lot of quotes from old court cases. So really, Black's Law Dictionary is just a bunch of, and that's why I laugh so hard when people are like, oh, Black's Law Dictionary, blah, 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 sovereign citizen, blah, blah, blah. I always laugh because if you go on the county recorder, if you go on any, that's what they use. They use Black's Law, and Black's Law is literally just case law, a lot of it, not all of it, but. So by saying Black's Law is a bunch of hooey, you're saying that the whole court system is a bunch of hooey, which, I mean, whatever. Some people are saying that, but I don't. That's not the public I work for and work with, and I actually find all this information and a lot of the legal information to be extremely spiritual and philosophical. So I'm not in that boat. But anyways,
I definitely want to go into the philosophical and spiritual part if we have time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool.
So going back to 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A23, definition of naturalization, we have here the conferring of nationality of a state. Most people think that when they see the word state, they got that all figured out. Well, you don't. So the word state, the definition of the word state in its largest sense, a state is a body politic or society of men, which is not a very good definition. Body politic is a state or nation or public association, which is also not a very good definition. Society, we have an association or company of persons, generally unincorporated, united together by mutual consent in order to deliberate, determine, and act jointly for some common purpose. In a wider sense, the community or public, the people in general. It's a better definition, but not really all that great. And then I finally found this, the definition of the word nation coming from a court case, and this is when things started to really make sense. Definition of nation, which also means body politic or state or society. They all mean the same thing, so we're going to be reading the definition for all of the above. An independent body politic, a society of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. But every combination of men who govern themselves independently of all others will not be considered a nation. A body of pirates, for example, who govern themselves are not a nation. To constitute a nation, another ingredient is required. The body thus formed must respect other nations in general and each of their members in particular. Such a society has her affairs and her interests. She deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and will peculiar to herself and is susceptible of obligations and rights. And what does that mean?
Exactly.
It's the same thing as the human body is composed of cells. So all the cells come together and they form this single unit called the body. And it's a single form, but it's made up of whatever billions and billions or whatever of cells, right? It's the same idea, right? Now, the rule in international law for a nation to be considered a nation is the nation has to have good internal tranquility and it has to share external help and not be something like a bunch of pirates that go around and just rape and pillage and take and destroy the lifestyle and the standard of living for others. Anyone going around and the mafia or pillaging and raping or damaging the standard of life for another does not have the ability to legally classify themselves as a nation. The idea that a nation is a territory or a location is entirely false, and territory or location has absolutely nothing to do with the idea or definition of a nation or a state. Okay? So it's the most important word in here to really make sure you understand, because most people see the word state and they just think, oh, one of the 50 states. And that's not even remotely close to anything. If you go to the Foreign Affairs Manual, 8FAM 505.2, which we can get into in more depth a little later, If you go down to, this is involving passport endorsements, which we can get into later. If you go down to passport endorsement code number 11, which is a diplomatic code for ambassadors at large, if you look at the example that they give you here, ambassador at large for global women's issues, it gives you more of an idea of what a nation actually is. Global women's issues is a nation. And you can be an ambassador at large for that nation. That nation does not have territory or location.
Interesting.
So going back to 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A23, definition of naturalization, by plugging in the word nation rather than the word state, it makes a lot more sense and starts to clear up what they're actually saying here, right? Then if we continue on, we see here that there's a blue clickable definition for the word person. Person is always going to be something fucking crazy. I don't care what area of law you're reading. Whenever you see the word person, there's got to be 480,000 alarm bells going off, because you got to dive into every area of law has a different definition of the word person.
Jeez.
Person is the most chaotic, confusing, and complicated thing basically ever. Okay? So we're going to click on this, and we're going to see what does Title 8 say is the definition of the word person. The term person means an individual or an organization. Okay. So if we go down, there's also a special definition for the word organization. So we're going to find that real quick. The term organization means, but is not limited to, an organization, corporation, company, partnership, association, trust, foundation, or fund, and includes a group of persons, whether or not incorporated, permanently or temporarily associated together with joint action on any subject or subjects. And what's funny is this definition basically means almost exactly the same definition as the word nation.
Yeah.
So an organization is a nation, typically, right? It's all the same thing, right? So if we go back to that definition, right? And the smart people in the audience are, the next question is, okay, well, what's the definition of individual? That's another one that I have never completed my research on. That is a tough one. I've spent, I don't know how many hours trying to figure out the definition of the word individual. It is an extremely deep rabbit hole, very, very complex. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. There are a lot of people who believes that the word individual only includes legal fictions, and there are others who believe that the definition of the word individual includes men and women that are inside of an actual physical human body. I'm not too sure if it's one or the other. I'm not entirely positive. But anyways, the word person, right? So for the purposes of this, I'll assume that the word person includes you as a living man, but I'm not so sure that's even real. So if we were to replace the word person here with the definition, so if I were to say, instead of person, if I were to say an individual or an organization, and if I were to replace the word state with the word nation, now you're going to start seeing that this is one of the most, if not literally the single most powerful thing you could ever learn in all of law. And it will change your life to such a dramatic degree that this one definition alone could literally cure chronic illness, in my opinion. That's how powerful this definition is. If someone's sick because they're very overwhelmed by their life, this definition basically eviscerates almost all overwhelming aspects, all financials, all taxation, citizenship, nationality, everything. This is you can completely control legal situations. You can get involved in litigation and just absolutely obliterate corporations, companies, trusts, the IRS. doesn't stand a chance when you understand this definition. The EDD, Employment and Development Department, does not stand a chance when you understand this definition. The DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, does not stand a chance when you understand this definition. Police don't stand a chance when you understand this definition. This will make a superhero out of an individual almost instantaneously. Just this one definition, if you really, really understand what it means. And when I started to try to understand what it means, I spent about 60 days just walking around in like a complete daze. I didn't really study much else. I was focused in on this one definition for probably about 60 days, and I used to just walk for miles and miles a day in this, like, this just can't be this powerful. It just can't be this powerful kind of a mentality. And then finally, after about 60 days of chewing on it, when I finally realized, holy shit, this is really what it is, everything changed. And everything has continued to change ever since. And I have become a completely untouchable god in almost every area of my life, almost exclusively from this one definition of this one word.
And the word is?
Naturalization.
Naturalization. I'm having thoughts pop in and out when you were saying a lot of that, because whether you're talking to a cop or someone else, some have told me, well, what happens if they don't know what you're talking about? And who's going to enforce it if no one knows what's going on?
Doesn't matter when you get into the courtroom. Anyways, let's just read this.
Sure.
Let's read this now. We're going to replace the word state with the word nation. And we're going to replace the word person with the definition straight from the definition, word for word, unindividual or unorganization. Okay? The term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a nation upon an individual or an organization after birth by any means whatsoever. So now what does that mean? The IRS has two different classifications. They have a resident alien and a non-resident alien. A resident alien lives in or is a citizen of United States. How do you become a resident of United States? If United States is a person and a corporation that is a state inside of a country called District of Columbia, and no one knows, I don't think, where the actual location, size, shape, or coordinates of this state called United States is, how do you get there? Remember from 42 USC 9102, you get there by three ways: by law, by birth, or by naturalization. Brandon Joe Williams believes that it's pretty much only this one way. And these two don't really make a lot of sense when you start to really dig into them, right? So if that's true, if my theory is true, then this is the only way you can become a resident alien to the person or nation called United States. So if you were to plug that into this definition, the way you would read it is the term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of the nation called United States, which is a person located God knows where inside of a foreign country called District of Columbia after birth by any means whatsoever. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the only way you can actually become a citizen or resident alien of the nation or person called United States.
And the irony
So
is they make you jump through all these hoops when
so the thing is that
necessary.
Yeah, so the thing is that basically these places don't have a physical location, and the way that you get there is by simply saying that you are there. So when you tell the IRS, I am not a resident, I am a non-resident alien, and I actually confer the nationality of South Africa upon myself and my businesses and my trusts and my estates and my partnerships and my associations and my companies after birth by any means whatsoever. What's happening is when you do that, when you say that, you instantaneously, all of your corporations, companies, trusts, partnerships, associations, companies, and corporations, including yourself, all instantaneously move and are physically and legally located in South Africa. Now, the same thing on the side of the road with a police officer. You don't hand them a driver's license because a driver's license states that you've stated under penalty of perjury that you are a resident of whatever state the driver's license was issued in. So you would never give them a driver's license. You'd give them something like a passport, which does not do that. Passport is not a naturalization document. And they say, where do you live or where do you work? I am not a resident of the state of California. I do not domicile in the state of California. I'm just driving through the state of California. I have no resident. Oh, okay. What are you a resident of? I'm a resident of Antarctica. I'm a resident of France. I'm a resident of New Zealand. Now, what happens is when those words come out of your mouth, I live in New Zealand. What's happening is in that moment, you are actively, legally naturalizing into New Zealand.
Interesting.
You are conferring with the police officer live on the side of the road, and his body cam footage becomes proof of naturalization. So what I would do is I would file a FOIA request to get copies of that video, and I would say on the body cam footage of the police officer is evidence that I have naturalized into New Zealand live during the traffic stop.
Huh.
If you are not a resident of any of the 50 states, then you are not contracted into, in California, what is called the California Vehicle Code. If you are not contracted into the California Vehicle Code, the police officer does not have the right to draw up a micro lawsuit for breach of contract called a citation or ticket.
This is after you do this after you change your status.
You can do the idea of changing status for most people that don't understand is very, very static. And the more and more I've studied this, it's actually very, very fluid. You can naturalize right away. You can naturalize 500 million times per hour. I could naturalize you. I could naturalize your companies. I could say I could find out your company is called Happy Cash Incorporated, and I could say I hereby confer the nationality of France on Happy Cash Incorporated right now, after birth, by any means whatsoever. Happy Cash Incorporated is a person, so unless you actively fight against and negate that idea of me attempting to naturalize your corporation is now legally, physically located in France.
Even though you have nothing to do with it.
Doesn't matter.
Huh.
Does it say conferring of nationality of a state upon yourself and organizations that you own or control or are a trustee of?
No.
Doesn't say that. So the government can confer nationality upon you. They can say that you were in city of Glendale. And if you don't rebut that assumption, they just naturalized you into city of Glendale. They can say that you are in state of California. If you don't, I would jump all over them. Whoa, objection. Trying to naturalize me. I see what you're trying to do. Ain't going to happen there, bucko. I do not. I am not a resident, nor do I live in state of California, which is a business located on Dun and Bradstreet. It's listed as a business. I am not a member of, a citizen of, I am not a resident of, state of California, city of Glendale, county of Los Angeles, or any of these other things that I whatsoever. And they go, oh, yeah, you are, blah, blah, blah. And then you say, oh, I see. So what you're attempting to do is you're attempting to force me into involuntary servitude, violating the 13th Amendment, and you're also violating Article 15, subsection 2 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which is an international human rights violation. Do I have that correct? And they get very nervous, very nervous. Would you like me to report your activities to Interpol? They get very nervous, very nervous. The thing is that it's all voluntary. It's all contractual. You live in city of Glendale or county of Los Angeles or state of California only and exclusively through agreement. When you start to study how residency laws work, for example, in the state of California. In the state of California, residency is established through 3 different means. 1, a driver's license. 2, voter registration. 3, the paying of state taxes. If you don't have a driver's license, you don't have voter registration, and you don't pay state tax, the only possible way they can establish residency is by attempting to naturalize you, meaning attempting to confer nationality of state of California upon you after birth by any means whatsoever, and then you not rebutting it. If you rebut it and you don't have paid state taxes or a driver's license or voter registration, there's absolutely fucking nothing they can do. They cannot establish residency. If they can't establish residency, they cannot contractually connect you into what is called the California Vehicle Code. If they can't contractually connect you into what is called the California Vehicle Code, they physically cannot write a citation or ticket on anything you do.
Well, that's if they know what they're doing.
No, because if you go into a court of law and you fight this, you will win, and you can countersue, and you can take the officer's badge, and you can go after the police station, you can go after the training academy, you can go after everybody.
And then my thought with that is I can see people saying, well, do I really have to do all that? Like, is there, like when you step into this world, you have no choice but to learn legalese, because if you want to exercise your God-given rights and freedoms, you're going to need to defend them. And do you feel like people in the beginning right now are going to need to constantly take people to court, and then that will slowly
Well, here's the issue. There's two different versions of each state. So when people say how many states are there in the United States, let me ask you, how many states are there in the United States?
50.
That is entirely incorrect. There is 101 states in the United States. Do you know what they are?
No, enlighten us.
So there's 2 versions of every single state, and then the last one, the 101, is the District of Columbia. So the 2 versions of each state, one is not incorporated and has its own constitution. For example, the constitution of the pre-14th Amendment version of California was written and published in 1848 and still exists and is still fully functional to this day. That's the one that I live under, right? There's a secondary constitution that was created for the incorporated version of state of California, which is an entirely separate nation. That particular incorporated constitution was created in 1879 and then was later repealed in, I believe, 1960. So you have 2 different nations. One has an active constitution, and the other one technically does not. And you have to realize that when you are naturalizing or conferring the nationality of a nation upon yourself as an individual, quote unquote, or one of your persons, such as a estate, a trust, a partnership, an association, a company, a corporation, you have to be very, very careful, because which of those 2 states or nations are you naturalizing into? 99.99 or maybe even probably 100% of every single person that's naturalizing all the time without knowing it is actually naturalizing into the incorporated version of state of California. And the incorporated version of state of California does not have a constitution. And the incorporated version of state of California, if the United States as a nation is a federal corporation located in the District of Columbia, where do you think the corporation called State of California is located?
Same spot.
It's in the District of Columbia. So when you naturalize into the unincorporated version of California, you have the United States Constitution, So the Second Amendment is yours, First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Ninth Amendment. All these things are yours. And then you also have the original 1848 Constitution. It's also yours, and everything is active. And actually, even to this day, even in the court system, they actually follow this information. Now, if you are a U.S. citizen or a resident alien, or if you have naturalized into the corporation called State of California, which is done through a driver's license or through voter registration, registering for voter registration, then you don't live in California. You live in a foreign nation called State of California, which is a sub-state of the country called the District of Columbia. That particular state of California, doesn't have a constitution. And the U.S. Constitution, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Ninth Amendment, does not apply in a foreign incorporated country called District of Columbia, which is not actually legally a part of the United States of America.
Makes sense.
So when you naturalize all the time, you don't realize it, but what's happening is you are naturalizing into the District of Columbia all the time. Every time you say you're a U.S. citizen, you are naturalizing into the District of Columbia. Every single time you pay taxes, federal or state, you are locking in the idea that you are naturalizing into the District of Columbia. Whenever you get a driver's license or renew a driver's license or present a driver's license, you are naturalizing into the District of Columbia. Every time you vote or register to vote or adjust or change without eliminating your voter registration, you are naturalizing into the District of Columbia. There's only one right, and this comes from the Supreme Court directly. It's on my website. There's only one right that a U.S. citizen or individual that is naturalized into the District of Columbia has. Only one. Do you know what that right is?
Go for it.
To residence inside of the District of Columbia. That is the only right that a U.S. citizen has.
To residence inside of the District
of Columbia.
So the Constitution has nothing to do with that.
Has absolutely nothing to do with you. You don't have a constitution. You don't have a state constitution, and you don't have a federal constitution if you're a U.S. citizen.
Which makes sense, because there's a lot of times you have these conversations, political conversations, you're like, they're not listening to what we're asking. And it comes down to they don't need to, because you have no rights, because you're a U.S. citizen.
Well, that's why they can't tell you you're a U.S. citizen. They have to ask you, and then you have to tell them.
Got it. Yeah.
Naturalization.
Because you have all the power.
Naturalization. That's correct. Naturalization. So when you start to really, really understand the definition of the word naturalization, and then obviously the definition of the word person as well, just that alone can begin to... Everything in your life, you become a vapor. I mean, there's no way to pin you down. And if they can't pin you down, they can't contractually obligate you into any body of law. I could live in Africa, and then 5 seconds later, I'm gone. And I'm in the other side of the earth. And then it starts to get even more crazy, because the definition of the word state or nation, you could just make one up. Like, for example, I've made up my own called the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition. So I'll bounce in and out of the 50 established states, and then I'll bounce out. The second I need to, I'm gone. I disappear. I vanish, and now I'm in the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition.
On paper.
On paper. And I could do that thousands of times a day.
And why? Can you give it an example of why you would do that? Because it sounds like that's
you can't get sued. You can't get tickets. You can't nothing. There's absolutely nothing that can happen to you. You are literally a vapor.
You're outside of the jurisdiction once you jump inside of your own nation.
Well, it's way beyond jurisdiction. I mean, you are literally a vapor. How can you imprison a vapor? Think about that.
You can't.
You can't imprison a vapor.
I can see you in the court. How can you imprison a vapor? And
Yeah.
the judge's like, what? And you're like, you can't, see?
Yeah, there's no way that you can do anything to somebody who understands the definition of the word naturalization. It's physically impossible.
That's like your smoking gun, nationalization. That's
naturalization.
Huh.
Yeah. So with that said, we start getting into the definition of what everybody's talking about. And that was all kind of like the preamble, right?
Yeah.
Now we start getting into this whole thing. People are talking about the national, state national, all this stuff. Okay. Now,
Sovereign citizen.
yeah. So we start getting into 8 USC 1101 subsection A22. This is all this little area right here, 21, 22, and 23 of 8 USC 1101 subsection A is just the craziest and most powerful thing ever. So what do we have here? 21 says the term national means a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. Same thing. We're going to go here and click on permanent. This word doesn't mean anything. You're going to laugh. The term permanent means a relationship of continuing or lasting nature as distinguished from temporary, but a relationship may be permanent, even though it is one that may be dissolved eventually at the instance either of the United States or of the individual in accordance with law. So we just removed this word. It's just a joke. It's an oxymoron. Doesn't have any meaning. It's
to scare you.
It's to scare you. So we replace state with nation. We remove the word permanent, and we replace person with an individual or an organization. We reread this. Also notice the word national is not capitalized. Very interesting, right? The term national means an individual or an organization owing allegiance to a nation. Now here's the next question. Does a person have to reside inside of or live inside of a physical location in order to pledge allegiance to that place or location?
Nope.
The answer is no. So the nationality has nothing to do with physical location, whereas citizenship does typically, right? So a national is a individual or an organization that owes allegiance to a nation. So for example, your work, you are actually legally a national of your job. You are a national of your family, typically, if you have a decent relationship with your family. You are a national of, let's say you're a part of like a Lions Club or a public speaking or a chess club or an online Call of Duty clan, something like that.
There we go.
You would be a national of that particular online Call of Duty clan. Okay? Legally. I'm not kidding. So if you become if you moving on to the next part here, if you happen to be an individual or an organization, or if you are going to do this on behalf of another individual or organization, which you can do it on literally anybody, you could naturalize the CEO of Starbucks right now if you wanted to. If the CEO of Starbucks does not rebut your attempt to naturalize him, then he is legally naturalized wherever it is that you say you could move the CEO of Starbucks into France legally. If you sued Starbucks and you put a statement of naturalization in the lawsuit and it did not get rebutted, if they did not respond in opposition to that statement, then legally within the confines of that lawsuit, the CEO of Starbucks would be physically and legally a resident of the country called France. Now, in 8 USC 1101 subsection A22, we start getting into what everyone's talking about. Now, if an individual or an organization states or pledges allegiance to the nation called United States, they become a national of the United States. 8 USC 1101 subsection A22. Now, national of the United States means two things. One of two things. A citizen of the United States, which basically means employee, an employee of the United States. Or B, a person who, though not an employee of the United States, owes allegiance to the United States. So we have a few terms here. If you go to 22 CFR 51.2, you'll start to see that the passport is issued. And then what's funny is you go to the passport office and they think that passports are only issued to U.S. citizens. Hilarious. Totally false.
That must be a fun conversation.
They're very, very confused and upset by all of us. Yes. A passport may be issued only to a U.S. national. Now, as far as I can tell, the term U.S. national and national of the United States is referring to the same thing. So you can say the term U.S. national means blah, and you can say the term national of the United States means blah. And you'll see that the word national is not capitalized. The word united is capitalized, and the word states is capitalized. Okay? Now, but then you go on the let's see here. So we've already seen that 22 CFR 51.2. So a passport may be issued only to a U.S. national or national of the United States. And you can see that echoed in even more clearly. This really rips the skull off of passport people. It's so fucking funny. You could get someone to emotionally melt down right there in the fucking office. You show them this one. 22 USC 212, no passport shall be granted or issued to or verified for any other persons than those owing allegiance, whether citizens or not, to the United States, right? And this is another way of saying the exact same thing as what they're saying here. The term national of the United States means A, a citizen of the United States, or B, a person who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. Back over to 22 USC 212. No passport shall be granted or issued to or verified for any other persons than those owing allegiance, whether citizens or not, to the United States. And then going back to 22 CFR 51.2, a passport may be issued only to a U.S. national. So those three sections all come together to show you that that's how this works, right? Now,
so having a passport and unknowingly calling yourself a U.S. citizen, because you have a passport and because they can only be issued to American nationals.
Well, it's not really the terminology is very critical, right? So an American national is a bit of a confusing. It's confusing, right? You have the term U.S. national. You could be, I am a national of the Amnesty Coalition, the nation of the Amnesty Coalition. I am a national of the micronation called Slowjamistan, which is on the screen right now. I'm actually a member of parliament. If you scroll down, you will see me right here. So the thing is
the pickle. There you go.
I am a national, which means somebody who has pledged allegiance to a nation of three different nations. One is the nation of the Amnesty Coalition, which is this website here, theamnestycoalition.org. You can see here's me. And I tell you right here, while I am an ambassador at large, wanting to help all nations of the world, I have specifically pledged qualified allegiance to three different nations, making me a tri-national. I am a non-citizen national and proud ambassador of all three of these incredible nations. 1, the Amnesty Coalition. 2, the Republic of Slowjamistan. 3, the United States of America. In terms of my relationship with the United States of America, I am a non-citizen national as defined in 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A 22B. So where is that? 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A 22B. A person who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. And you'll see that. So a U.S. national could be A or B. A or B. A national of the United States could be A or B. But if you look at the I-9 Employment Eligibility Verification Form from the USCIS, they have a different terminology, which is my favorite. A non-citizen national of the United States. Now, this terminology right here is referring to only and exclusively subsection B. A non-citizen national of the United States. So when you say I am a national of what? I am a national of the United States. Okay. Does that mean you're a citizen or a non-citizen national? If you say I am a U.S. national, okay. Does that mean you're a citizen or does that mean that you're a non-citizen national? When you say I am a non-citizen national, then you say, okay, of what? A non-citizen national of the United States. Bingo.
That nation. Got it.
A non-citizen national of France. A non-citizen national of the nation of the Amnesty Coalition. A non-citizen national of New Zealand. A non-citizen national of Australia. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
A non-citizen national of Canada. Somebody who's not a citizen but has pledged allegiance to Canada.
So non-citizen meaning unincorporated.
Non-citizen means non-employee.
Okay.
A non-employee allegiance giver of the United States. A non-employee allegiance giver of France. A non-employee allegiance giver of Antarctica. Now, keep in mind, all of the 50 states are all independent nations as well. If you go back in history, Alaska is a nation. California is a nation. New Mexico is a nation. The same way that the European Union is a whole bunch of nations, and then they have one super nation called the European Union, America is the same thing. The problem is that that's only on the unincorporated side. On the incorporated side, they're pretty much all just one big incorporated nation. That's why the federal courts are typically higher on the spectrum than the state courts. But in the unincorporated world, the original pre-1871 world, California is a nation, and that nation's constitution comes from 1848, and that 1848 constitution is still completely active even on 4:13 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on July 21st of 2024.
Got it. Are we at the end of the presentation?
No. God, no. So what happens is now we start getting into proof on this. People are like, oh, this is all bullshit and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah, where's the
whatever.
proof? Show me the money.
Easy. We got two spots, 8 U.S.C. 1401 and 18 U.S.C. 1408. So we'll start with 18 U.S.C. 1401. Nationals and citizens of United States. It doesn't say the United States because the United States is a person. Nationals and citizens of person called United States at birth. Okay? The following shall be nationals and citizens of the United States at birth. 8 U.S.C. 1408, unless otherwise specified in blah, the following shall be nationals but not citizens of the United States at birth. Let's go one step farther. Take a look at what is the name of Title 8. People think that it's citizenship and nationality. The word citizenship is nowhere to be found. Click on Title 8. You don't see it. Where is citizenship?
It's not there.
It's not there. It's two completely different subjects. Citizenship is governmental employment. Nationality is the conferring of allegiance. Pledging allegiance makes you a national. Working as an employee makes you a citizen.
Okay.
A U.S. citizen is an employee of the corporation, the federal corporation, located in the District of Columbia. A non-citizen national of the United States is somebody who is not an employee of the corporation called United States, but has pledged allegiance to the corporation called United States or United States of America. And you say to yourself, well, I don't want to pledge allegiance to the United States. Well, the way that we do it is we write our own custom Pledge of Allegiance. And what's funny is they never have a problem with it. Never once have we ever had an issue. You can write your own custom Pledge of Allegiance, and they will accept it. I'm not even sure they read the goddamn things, to be honest with you. Because they just accept, you could put on there, fuck you, and send a dick pic in, and they'll accept it. I'm serious. It's crazy.
And on that sheet, that pledge is basically what you're pledging. Specifically.
You're
choose
pledging
what
allegiance. So what is your allegiance? What are you what it's like the Pledge of Allegiance that we read in high school, but you can write your own Pledge of Allegiance. If the corporation called the United States accepts your Pledge of Allegiance, you are a non-citizen national of the United States. Congratulations. You are eligible for a passport.
Even if you just moved in last week.
You could
France.
live in a cave in Antarctica. It makes no difference. You can still do the process.
Without the paperwork, without all that stuff.
Now, if you think you're going to live in a cave in Antarctica and you're going to go and get the Department of State to issue you a passport as a non-citizen national without having to litigate, that's not going to happen. But if you're willing to litigate and bang down their door, they have to issue you a passport. They don't have a choice. And we can start getting into 22 CFR 51.3. We start getting into types of passports. We have a regular passport, which, oh my gosh, shockingly, regular passport is issued to a national of the United States. Oh my God. The word citizen is nowhere to be found. How fascinating. A service passport, official passport, or a diplomatic passport. Those are the four types. And then we have the passport card. If you look at the DS-11 passport application form, you'll start to see something now all of a sudden, now that we've been covering all this, that may kind of catch your eye a little bit, something that you may have never noticed previously. On the upper right-hand side of the first page of the area that you are clearly supposed to fill out, there are areas that are very, very clearly in gigantic blue lines and a whole different thing, and it's not in this kind of tan, orangey color area. We have a section on the first page and the second page, which is very clear that you are not to write in these areas. The orange-yellow areas are very, very clear. These are the areas that you are the one who is supposed to fill out. On the upper right-hand side of the form, we have 4 boxes. Ironically, what do we have? We have 4 types of passport. D, diplomatic. O, official. S, service. NFR is no fee, regular. If we go to 8 Foreign Affairs Manual 505.2, and we start looking at the passport endorsement page again, so we were looking at earlier, and we scroll down, we will see that same information almost. There's a few subcategories duplicated here. D means diplomatic. O means official. N or NFR means no fee, regular. And then we have S means service, right? Now, below that, on the DS-11, we have END period space pound space line. END means ENDORSEMENT. Endorsements. They're asking you, of all these different special cool codes, like, for example, ambassador at large, or the bearer as a United States national and not a United States citizen, which is 09, they're asking you, what kind of endorsement codes would you like to have? They're not supposed to fill this out. You are. They're asking you, do you want a passport book? Do you want a passport card? Or do you want both? And then if you do want the book, do you want a regular book or a large book? And then they're asking you, do you want a diplomatic, official, service, no fee, regular? And then what kind of endorsement code would you like? And I don't know what the hell this is, EXP. For all I know, they're asking you, when would you like this passport to expire? I honestly have no fucking clue what that one is. To this day, I have no idea. But I would assume... as shocking as everything is, I would assume that they're asking you when you'd like your passport to expire. I really don't know what else to say about that. Anyways, so this is your window shopping, 8FAM505.2, where you can go window shopping and you can figure out what kind of passport do you want and what type of endorsement would you like. And they're going to tell you, oh, blah, 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 use only when authorized by CA, PPT, SA. I've never seen any information anywhere, and it's literally right in there, and it asks you which one you want. And I guarantee you, if you do some light litigation, which I have never done or seen anyone else do, there's no way they can stop you from getting whatever you want. Now, they are going to stop you if you're not willing to litigate. They'll say no, and that can only be done by CA, PPT, whatever. I've tried emailing CA, PPT, whatever the fuck. They never respond to anything. I'm not even sure they're real. I don't even know what it is. So if you'd like a diplomatic passport or an official passport or a service passport, or if you'd like special endorsements and you're willing to do a bit of litigation, I am of a pretty strong theoretical opinion that you can get literally anything you want issued to you. And what's more crazy is that every single person can get one type of all 4 passports. So, for example, I live most of my life out of private irrevocable trusts. I have 4 or 5 of them. I could get 4 different types of passport for every single one of my trusts. So I can go in here and say name, and I can say name of my trust, Brandon Joe Williams Trust. Last name would be Trust. Or you could say Williams Trust. And then you would say Brandon Joe Williams Trust. And they go, oh, we don't give passports to trusts or corporations. And you just laugh, literally like spitting, laughing so hard right in their face, because that is falsely untrue. In all these areas, including 22 U.S.C. 212, no passport shall be verified or issued to any other persons. The Title 8 definition of the word person or persons is an individual or an organization. The definition of organization could be incorporated or unincorporated. You don't even need a corporated corporation. It could just be you and your buddies, and you have a clan on Call of Duty, and it could be called, Killer Clan, Best Killer Clan, and it can be Best Killer Clan Trust, or whatever, or organization. Because the definition of the word organization means it could be incorporated or unincorporated. If we go back to 8 U.S.C. 1101, subsection A, A28, the term organization means but is not limited to an organization, corporation. Now check this out. Means but is not limited to. You could fight that in court too. Not limited to. So they're saying even beyond all this, which is super ultra vague, because it even says here whether or not incorporated. So whether or not incorporated, plus this isn't even the limiting definition. So what does that mean? It means everything is an organization. So who qualifies for a passport? Anything qualifies for a passport.
And the only reason to get a passport is identification and being able to, I guess, identification at this point. And then based off of the type of passport, it's just different types of things you can do, because you're saying there's like 4 or 5 of types of passports. And I'm guessing based off of your contract killer course, you're referencing 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star. That's pretty much the diplomat, the service, and I think the other one is the officer, right?
Yeah, you have the diplomatic, you have the service, you have the officer, and then you have the regular. Regular is the one that almost everybody has. A regular passport is issued to a national of the United States.
Got it. So technically, you wouldn't have to get another passport when you start working your life as a non-citizen national of the United States, because now you're going to have more freedoms if you do that, correct?
Well, you could leave all your own shit alone, and you can go out and litigate against the Department of State, and you can confer the nationality of United States upon a person. Let's say you own the Los Angeles Lakers. You can confer allegiance to the United States on behalf of the organization called Los Angeles Lakers, and you can attach that certificate of naturalization to a DS-11 form, and you can fill it out like this: Los Angeles Lakers Organization. Now, I've never, ever, ever seen anyone do this. I'm not sure if it's ever happened. But I'm telling you, they will deny it. I'm telling you, if you litigate, they don't have a choice. They will have to issue a passport, and it'll have your picture on it as the agent on behalf of the person called Los Angeles Lakers Organization. And the name on the passport will say Los Angeles Lakers Organization.
That's
and where
funny.
it says Social Security number, you're going to go to the IRS and you're going to get an EIN number for Los Angeles Lakers Organization. And you're going to type that EIN number. The EIN number is 9 digits, same as a Social Security number, into this section of the form. The Social Security number of Los Angeles Lakers Organization will be the EIN number.
Because, yeah, I'm trying not to get lost here, but I feel like when I asked that, we went into somewheres where now it's beyond me.
Yeah.
But I have a gist of what you're saying. You legit just
An organization is a person.
That a person.
Passports are issued to persons. It's that simple.
But why would I want the Lakers organization to have a passport? What's the benefit of that?
Why not? I don't know. I don't know. Why not? You could get clever. You could put on here international diplomatic association organization. Imagine having a passport that said that and had your picture on it. If you open up a trust, well, actually, it doesn't even need to be a trust. It could be unincorporated. It could be even above and beyond the definition found in at USC 1101 subsection A28. It could be anything. You could just make this up and say, oh, me and my friends, we're online. We have a forum on Reddit, and we talk about what it means to be a diplomat in various countries of the world. Okay, boom. You have an organization as per Title 8 definition. That organization is entitled to a passport.
That's crazy. I'm ready to go next. What's after this? I'm like, all right, I don't even know what to do next after that.
So usually this is the part of the presentation when I get into taxes, which is very simple now. Now that we've figured all that out. Taxes is such a fucking joke. 26 CFR 1.871-1, classification and manner of taxing alien individuals. Now, by the way, the word alien means foreigner, and they always use the word alien, even when they use the word resident, which is kind of confusing. So what the term resident alien means is foreigner who is staying here temporarily.
Makes sense.
And the reason why is you start going far enough down this rabbit hole, and there's, on paper, no one lives in the District of Columbia. They only work there. And that's why it's resident alien. You can't physically live in Washington, D.C. You can only work there, and you're if you let's say you have a home in Washington, D.C., the way that works is it's sort of like it's like a temporary home that you have just for like visiting or just for like business purposes. Like it's not really like a home in law. That's why it's resident alien. Temporary visitor who is a foreigner. That's how you would say this term in English. Okay? For purposes of the income tax, alien or foreign individuals, because everyone is a foreign individual. They don't say alien and domestic. They don't say alien and non-alien. They say alien. Everyone is an alien, you see? For purposes of the income tax, alien individuals, which is everyone, are divided generally into two classes, namely resident aliens and non-resident aliens. So taking that same terminology, we have somebody who is temporarily here or joining us in this state called the United States, which no one can define where it's at, but they are foreigners, so they're going to be here just for a little while and they're going to leave. They are not living here or permanent domicile here or anything. That's option one. Option two is foreigners who aren't here. That's literally all. A non-resident alien is a foreigner who's not here. That's
right.
it. It's a foreigner who's here, or a foreigner who's not here. How do you get there? Testing you.
How do you get where? I mean,
how do you get anywhere?
You nationalize.
Naturalize.
Naturalize.
Naturalize. It's the only way you can get there. You can't get there any other way. If I drive through Washington, D.C., and I zigzag up and down the entire Washington, D.C., how would you know that you were ever in the substate of Washington, D.C. called the United States? If you don't know where it is, you don't know what shape it is, and you don't know how large it is or the coordinates of it, how would you know you were ever at any point in time? How would you know? Let's say you drove through Washington, D.C. all day, every day, up and down, and zigzagged, and you had a motorcycle or a dirt bike, and you can go all through the parks, and you can go all through the roads, and you could, and the Capitol building was just whatever, and you're on the dirt bike, and you're going through the Capitol, you're tearing up the yard, and for 48 hours straight, and you zigzag, and there's a map on Google Maps, and it's just got lines and dots, and it's just, the whole thing is like just filled with all the motion and traveling and all. How would you know if at any point in time you were traveling through or contacted the substate of the country of the District of Columbia called United States?
You wouldn't know. You would have to say you were, because it's not
exactly
a physical spot.
There's no other way you can get there. The only way you can get there is naturalization. You can't get there in the physical world. It is physically impossible to contact. It cannot be physically contacted.
So that being said, a resident alien and a non-resident alien, in my mind, I understand that as, let's say I have family outside of, now it's like I gotta watch how I'm saying things, but for the purposes of someone who doesn't understand what's going on, they have a family that lives, out of the country, out of the physical country. Then they're visiting the physical country, and they're visiting, let's say, California. That person didn't nationalize themselves, right? They did not naturalize themselves, so therefore they are a non-resident alien. And myself, who has naturalized myself unknowingly, am a resident alien. And that's why you have the green cards for the residency and all that.
You've got it.
Got it.
Non-citizen nationals don't have green cards.
Correct.
So resident alien individuals are, in general, taxable the same as citizens, which means employees, of the United States, which means a corporation located God knows where. So if I reread that, resident alien individuals are, in general, taxable the same as employees of the federal corporation. That is, a resident alien is taxable on income derived from all sources, including sources without, which means outside of, the federal corporation. Now, the word income is hilarious, too. It can't be defined. So I'm not going to get into that. Sure. I'm not going to get into that now. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. The word income is completely undefinable. And if I click on it, you'll even see. Whenever you start to see shit like this, where it goes on and on and on and on and on, and it makes no sense, you got to realize you're starting to pound up against something that they don't know, and they're trying to smoke screen it out. And then if you go back, you'll see another one here. If we click on non-resident alien, this one's going to make you laugh. Look at the definition of the term non-resident alien. I was on the fucking floor when I first saw this.
Right,
Sorry.
see.
Wait, hold on. Wait, did they change it? Oh my God, they changed it. Holy shit. Hold on.
Listening.
Oh no. There we go.
Okay. The screen's small.
Non-resident alien. It says definition letter J, non-resident alien. That's the definition.
That is ridiculous.
But this one's a little different.
It is what it is.
B1B. Yeah, see how confusing that is? So when you start seeing shit like this, woo boy. Boy. Now, what's funny is you can take this. Let's say the IRS sues you. It's very easy to handle. You'll anyone who winds up in a court, when you start to understand how all this stuff works, you fuck something up really bad. I mean, when you understand how this stuff works, you will never see the inside. I mean, you've got to really fuck things up to get in the inside of a courtroom, honestly.
So there's nothing to pretty much worry about if you don't do anything crazy.
Well, people think that everything I do is crazy, but the thing is that everything I do is actually I am probably the most legal individual walking the earth in relationship to the United States legal system, like literally. There's probably not a single person walking the earth that is even close to as well coordinated and as well integrated into the legal system in the highest caliber of legality and than me, literally. I mean, I'm people laugh and they say I'm a rebel when I'm actually the ultimate conformer.
The irony. Well,
It's
because you
very
know
funny.
a lot more of what's actually going on, and so you're like, I'm actually playing by the rules better than most.
I play by the. I'm like a nerd. I'm like reading the entire rule book over and over and over and looking up the definition
You're
of
like
every single word.
nosebleed level.
Yeah. So going down, this is the part that usually irritates people, and this is what everyone in America has done, right? However, non-resident alien individuals, and the word individual, like I said, is this is the definition of individuals. Individuals. An individual is not a QBU, which me and my buddy Joe Listico, we did a show once and we were looking this up and we were laughing so hard we were in tears. We couldn't even finish the show. We were laughing so hard. We couldn't even find the definition of Q. Literally, like what you're looking at is you're looking at, we don't want to define this because if we define this, we're fucked. That's what you're looking at, right? So knowing that the word individuals is extremely up in the air, people think that means men and women walk around in flesh bodies in the physical world.
Seems like a filler word, just a filler.
It's you'd be surprised. You start going down this rabbit hole. So, however, non-resident alien individuals. So what is this definition of non-resident alien individuals? If I had to say, it'd be foreign nations or God knows what that are not naturalized into the federal corporation called the United States.
Just others.
May elect to be treated as a U.S. residence for purposes of determining their income tax liability. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is the tax code version of naturalization. Again, naturalization is the craziest shit ever. What they're saying here is that people who are not inside of this unlocatable corporate zone called the United States, which is located in the District of Columbia, may confer the nationality of this unlocatable location inside of the corporation called District of Columbia upon an individual which is undefinable or an organization such as an estate, a trust, a company, corporation, partnership, or association. And if they do that, they're essentially electing that person, whether it be an estate, a trust, a corporation, or an individual which is undefinable, to be a resident of this unlocatable nation called the United States for the purpose of determining their income tax liability. So taking all of that, which I know is a little bit confusing, and simplifying it down to Beavis and Butthead second grade, you volunteered.
Yeah.
You volunteered.
Okay. Makes sense.
You volunteered by saying that you're there or saying that you want to do it or by filing a tax return. You
So if
volunteered.
you don't want to pay taxes, you unvolunteer.
And how do you unvolunteer? And I have documents, and I have a very simple rule. Don't send in things you don't understand. Sending in things you don't understand is extremely, extremely stupid. Very, very stupid. All these documents are all free. Resources and documents at the amnestycoalition.org. You're going to scroll down. revocation of election to be treated as a resident alien for the purpose of determining your income tax liability. This is an affidavit. You are going to read this affidavit, and you're going to clear up all of the words of the affidavit. It's not terribly difficult to understand, especially if you've watched the show and understand everything in the show. There are some financial information here. You're going to need to go to some of my other shows and start looking at some of my financial information. You're going to read through this. Nationality clarification. Here we go. Naturalization, right here, right? 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A23 states the term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. Through the tremendous power of naturalization, I hereby confer the nationality of the state of the nation of the Amnesty Coalition on my ens legis, which means creature of the law, called Brandon Joe Williams in all caps. When you were born, there was a corporate fiction that was created of your name in all capital letters. If you look on your bills and all your mail, it has that name on it, which is a business or a franchise name. It's not actually referring to you specifically. Again, the word person includes estates, partnerships, companies, corporations, etc. So you got to ask yourself, is this thing, which is a person, no one will deny that. If it's a person, it's one of many, many different things. So you got to think, what is it? And if they say individual, you say, what's the definition of individual? You're really going to blow out their tires because they don't know the definition of the word individual. I don't think anyone does. So Brandon Joe Williams in all caps is not referring to you. It's a franchise. Or right. I call it the ens legis. Ens legis just means creature of the law. I don't know what kind, Your Honor. Is it a corporation? Is it an estate? I don't know, but I know it's a creature of the law. It's an ens legis. That I know. That I can tell you with full certainty. What it is, you say it's a corporation. Sometimes I'll say it's a corporation. But then I think in the back of my head, well, Mr. Williams, can you prove that it's a corporation? Not necessarily. Can I prove it's an ens legis? That's easy. Of course, that's easy. Right? In California, we pay tax to the Franchise Tax Board. If you look up the definition of the word franchise, it literally means business. So when you pay state tax in California, when your name is on there, Brandon Joe Williams, you can just use their own terminology against them. That's a business, literally. It's very easy in California. That's why I like California, because that franchise tax board makes things really, really simple to explain. Oh, so you're saying that my name isn't a franchise? Oh, well, Mr. Williams. Oh, in that case, I don't have a state tax liability. Fantastic. Thank you, Your Honor. Oh, I wasn't saying that. Oh, you see? Very, very easy. Very, very easy, right? So here we have a little tax treaty. Very, very simple. I attest that my ens legis has been previously born after the Department of Health and Human Services processed my certificate of live birth. We have some naturalization stuff. We have talking about national but not citizen after birth. And then this is, we're not going to get into this, is financial. But you can see it's a very short document, opening statements, closing statements, some financial information, and then you have the naturalization and nationality clarification. They process this document every single time it has been sent in. Hundreds of thousands of these have been sent in. They don't call you. They don't send you anything. Nothing. They send you a series of 3 letters. The first letter says, we've received your, and they don't even talk about what it is. They're very vague. We've received your whatever. It's going to have some random year on it. Sometimes it's the year you were born. Sometimes it'll say like the year you were born all the way up through whatever year you put on here. The years are just totally random, whatever they want to put on there, whatever their understanding of this is. And the document says something along the lines of, we're working on getting back to you on this. There's nothing else you need to do. They'll say that right on the document. Then they'll say they need 30 or 60. They'll say they need like 30 days, something like that. Then in 30 days, you'll receive a second letter. The second letter will say, we're still working on it. There's still nothing you need to do, but we need an additional 60 or 90 days. And then after an additional 60 to 90 days, they're going to send you a third letter. It's going to be the same thing. We're still working on what you sent us. There's nothing you need to do, but we have absolutely no idea when we're going to be done, and we'll let you know when we're done, and then you'll never hear from them again.
In this process, as more people become aware of this and process it, I'm sure it's going to slow down as far as like your confirmation and everything. Like, yeah, we received it, or can you go by the first?
It doesn't matter. What all you do is when you send it in, you send it certified mail, and you make them sign for the parcel. And then you'll get the green card back, and you'll also get the online notification stating that it was delivered, and it'll tell you even on the online thing, it'll say delivered to a person at a front desk, blah 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 blah. But the little green card, it's called a 3811, a PS 3811. You can check on there. I'll show you. It's probably better just to show you. PS 3811 images. So this is what they look like, PS 3811. And it's funny because I go in there and I'm like, I need some PS 3811s, and they go, what are you talking about? And they've been working there for 30 years. It's kind of funny. This is what it looks like. Okay. And they're free. You can pick them up for free. And they go with the PS 3800, I believe it is. Yes. This is the PS 3800. Okay. So you can see here, this is how they come together. Okay. And the PS 3800 is this one here. This one here has the number on it. You're going to take that number and you're going to stick it on the document. So at the top of the document, it'll say certified mail number, and you're going to stick that this number here on the certified mail. You're going to get two of these. These are free. Everyone doing all the shit that I do, they have huge stacks of these and these at home, right? And this number is going to go with the one document. One document goes to the local IRS servicing center, local to your area, and then the other one goes to the IRS commissioner, right? So you're going to have two different parcels, two different certified mail numbers, two different PS 3800s, two different PS 3811s, right? You're going to take this number right here, and you're going to stick one of these on the one, and then that number goes on the document, and then one of these on the other one, and then this number goes on the document as well, right? And then this one is going to say, who is it going to? You're going to write IRS Service Center, and then you're going to write your local IRS Service Center, blah, 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 blah. And then you have the various services that are available down here, and you just fill in or check mark the boxes that you want. You're going to do adult signature, which is right here. You're going to do certified mail registered trademark, I think is the... You're going to check on that one. And then you're going to check signature confirmation trademark. You're going to check that box. Then you're going to flip over the 3811, and on the back side, it's going to look like this. And then you're going to write in with a pen your sender information, Brandon Joe Williams, P.O. Box 1962, Glendale, California, 91209. And then this gets attached to the parcel. They physically, with a pen or stamp, sign here, name here, and then date here. And then the post office guy will tear this green thing off of the parcel itself and then send it back to the address on the back side of the green card, and you will actually physically get the 3811 back at the location that you put on the back of the 3811. And that is your evidence that the Internal Revenue Service has signed for the revocation of election to be treated as a U.S. resident for the purposes of determining your income tax liability.
And that one's big. That's a hot topic for a lot of people.
Yes.
God.
So how hard is it to get out of taxation? Just as easy as it was to get into it. Volunteering or naturalizing or electing. It's all the same word. Volunteer is how you say it in a social atmosphere. It's not a legal term. The legal term from Title 8 would be naturalization, and then the legal term from Title 26, which is the tax code, would be an election or to elect. Kind of all means the same thing. Volunteer, elect, volunteer, naturalization. And you can see that here. I'll show one more thing. You can also see that here at 26 CFR 601.602, subsection A. The last sentence. Tax system is based on voluntary compliance, and the taxpayers complete and return the forms with payment of any tax owed. If you go to, this is where all of the...
That's crazy. That's crazy because there's a lot of fear behind it. Oh, if you
well,
don't
check
pay
this
your
out.
taxes,
Check this out. This is what everyone's going to send you. All your naysayers and all your pussy ass family that suck dick. They're gonna send you this page. They're gonna go online and they're gonna start looking things up, and this is what they're gonna send you: the truth about frivolous tax arguments. And it goes through and it talks about a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about on the show. Not all of it, by the way, but a good chunk of it, maybe half or so of what I've talked about on the show, they'll talk about here. Now, here's the kicker, because I was trying to figure out what am I missing here? I'm missing something, right? Check this out. Taxpayer. 56 times it's used. They never refer to you in any other way besides the word taxpayer, including all of the letters they send you. And I started thinking, what the fuck is a taxpayer? 26 U.S.C. 7701, subsection A14, has the definition of taxpayer, and it blows this entire subject up instantly. Clarifies everything. The term taxpayer means any person subject to any internal revenue tax. If you're not naturalized, you aren't subject to any internal revenue tax. You aren't there. You're a non-resident alien.
That's a trick of words that they are literally selling you, trying to disprove someone who's understanding the words. It's like a double standard at that point.
So if you were to read this in normal English, now everything starts to make sense. People or companies or legal fictions that are subject to internal revenue tax, who rely on frivolous arguments to avoid filing returns, may be subject to an addition to tax under this statement. This statement is completely true. They aren't lying for failing to file a return. Additionally, people or individuals who are subject to internal revenue tax who rely on frivolous arguments to avoid paying tax may be subject to additions to tax for failing to pay taxes. This sentence is completely true. Here we go again. Individuals who are subject to internal revenue tax, filing returns with frivolous positions, may be subject to the accuracy-related penalty under Section 6662, which is completely true. Do you see?
Yeah, because they're using the right words.
Everything they are saying here is completely true. They are not lying to you. A taxpayer instituted a taxpayer's position, a taxpayer unreasonably. That's all. They don't call you anything else.
It's just, yeah, that's it. As long as they that's slick, huh? That's awesome. You just that one word just made it all fall apart.
So they say the word taxpayer. Oh my Lord, I am screaming, doing backflips. Whoa! Who in the fuck are you calling a taxpayer, bro? Because if they say taxpayer and you don't rebut it, that's also a little bit dangerous. They're saying,
because if you say
saying, excuse me, Mr. Person who is subject to internal revenue tax. And you go, yes? Do you see? What would you like to say? They're a good friend. And they go, ha ha. So you do admit it. You see?
Nah, that's slick, man. All right, so I feel like we scrambled everybody's brains, and they're going to have to go back and re-listen. I'm down to go into the philosophical part because I've had conversations with people around this who have an idea, and if you could clarify, because you said like at one point you're like it all comes down to the Bible and the trustee and the people of the land being the trustees and God being the person who issued the trust, right? Like how does that break down? Like what is your philosophical perspective of what's going on?
everything is a nation. Even state of California, there's two nations there. There's one that's unincorporated, that's located where people think it's located, and it has a constitution from 1848. And it also has the federal constitution, which is also two federal constitutions. There's one federal constitution for the unincorporated independent nation states, and then there's also one for all the corporated states, right? So there's two different federal, two different state for each state, and then the District of Columbia has one, which is kind of interesting.
So which one is the one that everybody knows of or sees that's on like that scroll?
That's well, if you look at the original on the scroll, that's the unincorporated. The corporation of the United States didn't exist until 1871. So pre-1871, there was only one country. After 1871, there's been two countries ever since. The 14th Amendment is what created the second country called United States.
The corporation.
And the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia and the corporation called the United States were both born in 1871. They were born from the 14th Amendment, and they were clarified in the Slaughterhouse cases, which is a series of Supreme Court cases in 1871. So it all happened in 1871, all of it.
And, well, I want to finish what I was alluding to before, the whole trust situation, right? You as a people, as a like I'm trying to watch my words, but us living people were given a trust, and then that got all jacked up. But it seems like the whole commercial law, the whole system is written based off of that. Like that's the grounding point, so to speak. Or am I false?
Yeah, we have two different worlds that are intermeshed together. One is the United States of America, which is still here. It's still the same thing as it was in 1776. And then we have a secondary incorporated overlay corporate version of another country. The complicated part about the way this works is the unincorporated United States of America has physical locations, and it operates on coordinates and stuff like that, whereas the incorporated version does not have that. It's all just whatever. And that's why residency in state of California can only be established through naturalization, because there is no physical boundaries or physical location. The reason why that is because if there was physical boundaries or location, how would you locate something that doesn't have a physical body, such as an estate, a partnership, a corporation, a company, etc.?
You have to use references because it's not a physical body.
So the only way that they could do it, when they started getting into redefining the definition of the word person, which occurred during that same time period of the Reconstruction after the Civil War, the only way that they could create an entirely new country that was based upon legal fictions rather than by meat body and physical location is by making everything only locatable through a declaration rather than a physical location.
Correct. Okay. I'm saying correct, like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because I understand vaguely, but it's essentially ever since the Civil War, all this BS started happening, and people didn't know about it. And it sounds like people got grandfathered in because now you're going to have people that unknowingly accepted themselves as being part of the corporation, and it was probably sold to them because, this is to your benefit. Because
they made a legal fiction of your name in all capital letters, and they made a legal fiction of state of California, and they made a legal fiction of county of Los Angeles, and they made a legal fiction of city of Los Angeles. All of those are persons that are all listed on Dun & Bradstreet, which is a business directory. So they created this entire false world that are all legal fictions, that are all located in the District of Columbia, but it has the same names of everything that you think you see. So City of Los Angeles, you see that on a sign and you go, oh, I know where that's at. You don't know where that's at. County of Los Angeles, you say, oh, I know where that's at. You don't know where that's at. And the only way you can get there is by saying that you're there. There's no other way to physically get there. I could touch and move my physical body through every millimeter of space on this entire planet, all the way from below the water in the sea all the way up to the sky and spend all my days for the rest of my life physically moving through all of these areas. And if I don't say it with my mouth or write it with a pen, I was never in any of these places.
You as the living person, you as a living body.
Yeah.
You
But
said
if I could travel the whole world right now in the legal world by saying, I confer the nationality of state of California upon myself after any whatsoever. Now, I confer the state of New Mexico upon myself after birth by any means whatsoever. Now I'm in New Mexico. Now I confer the nationality of the state of Texas upon myself after birth by any means whatsoever. Now I'm in Texas. I can travel the whole world right now, right here in this chair in the legal
just
world.
by stating that.
Just by stating that, yes.
Yeah. All right, well, insane. Because I'm like, I don't even want to, I have to process the other things to be able to process how to take advantage of that. I mean, you sound like you're Neo right now in the Matrix. You know how he unplugs himself and then he goes back in and he's like, no. And then the bullets stop. And he's literally getting up and flying around with no limitations. And I told my wife this and she said, so what's the benefit? And it's as if it's not obvious. If someone is trying to digest this and you're saying, I definitely want to get back to how you tried to find the source of this. And I think you said you found it in the Bible. I want to get there. But first, because this came up to mind now, the benefit, what are some obvious benefits that you can tell a person to that is what are the benefits that you can tell a person when you're you should do this outside of, well, you're free. I thought I was already free. And then without having to just explain them everything. Hey, you know what? If you want to know how it works, watch this. But for now, these are the benefits.
I don't have a federal income tax liability. I don't have a state tax liability. I don't have a sales tax liability. Los Angeles has a city tax. I don't have a city tax liability. I am not contracted into the California Vehicle Code. I cannot be given citations. I cannot be given tickets. I have infinite money. That's a whole other subject. So I can create money out of thin air as much as I want, anytime I want, which we're not going to get into. That's going to take another hour. But I have a lot of free information about that. That's where a lot of my research is currently, and all of my litigation is involving that subject. I don't do any litigation yet involving nationality and citizenship. All my litigation is all involving financials and the financial system, and banking. And diplomatic immunity. You can start your own nation. I've started my own nation. It's totally legal. If you look at this, another one that's pretty shocking for people, 18 USC 11. How do you create your own foreign government? It's very, very easy. You can create your own foreign government right now in 5 minutes. 18 USC 11, foreign government defined. The term foreign government includes any government, faction, or body of insurgents within a country with which the United States is at peace, irrespective of recognition by the United States. So by simply saying that a nation exists and then conferring the nationality of that nation upon yourself, as long as that nation is at peace, it does not need any recognition to be legally classified as a foreign government. It simply needs to be at peace. So the most important question is, okay, what's the definition of the word peace? The definition of the word peace fits in perfectly with the definition of the word nation. Peace is defined as the tranquility enjoyed by a political society, internally by the good order which reigns among its members, and externally by the good understanding it has with all other nations. Applied to the internal regulations of a nation, peace imports, which means kind of indicates or shows, in a technical sense, not merely a state of repose and security as opposed to one of violence or warfare, but likewise a state of public order and decorum.
This is just a long-ass description of peace.
Same thing as nation. Internal tranquility, external tranquility, and then this one just adds a little caveat at the end. public order, and decorum. This is why when you start getting into diplomatic relations, and you'll actually find from the Department of State and the Foreign Affairs Office of the Foreign Affairs in the Department of State, they have manuals for everything. They have manuals that teach you how to set up a table depending on if it's an ambassador or a consular or what level they're at or a service staff. They have how to introduce yourself or another person to another person based off of rank, based off of location, what hand you use to shake, how to enter a room. They have tremendous specific technology. That technology is the technology, in my opinion, I call it the technology of decorum.
Okay. It's like a rabbit hole of rabbit holes. Like you're like, oh, I got my foot stuck in 2 holes. What is going on? It can keep going. Whoa, whoa. All right, so I want to go into, are you good for 30 minutes of me asking you questions based off of what
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go.
Sure.
I appreciate you spending the time with me, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
So the God part, the Bible part, what have you seen that connects this to the Bible?
Well, the Bible, a lot of this information goes back to trusts and trust law. And then before you have the incorporated United States, everything just operated off of common law. Common law is actually a great example. Common law is in all the movies. So you have this little town in the middle of nowhere, and someone comes in and they start doing stupid shit. The sheriff, who's chilling, smoking a cigar, doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe he has a deputy, but oftentimes he would just work by himself. And he just goes off and gets the guy, and they put him in a room, and it's just local people from the town, and he's innocent until proven guilty. But typically, to get this far, it's like there's got to be a dead body. I mean, it's got to be really, or a busted thing or something. It's obvious, you know what I mean? So they go around, they talk, and they do their thing, and then typically at that point, they just kind of make up a fucking. That's why you have these old things like the stocks. If someone was cheating on their husband, the woman would get put in the stocks, and they could throw tomatoes at her for 6 days in the middle of town square or whatever. Or they would have to do reparations, repair things, or paint things in the town, or they'd get killed or imprisoned or whatever it is. They just make it. There's no codes. It's just fuck this guy. Let's hang him right now. Right down the street, right here. Let's build a gallows next door and hang the motherfucker right now. Okay, that's what they did. So what happened was that common law operated like that for a while, and it was notoriously savage, very savage. So what happened was they created this secondary type of court called equity. The whole point of an equity court was to try to pad the extreme, like, let's rip this guy's skin off and leave him in the middle of town square to die of starvation, shitting and pissing himself for 9 days in excruciating pain. They were trying to get that into, how about we just hang him or something, or how about we just
civil.
Let's be a little bit more civil, right? So
savages.
the purpose of the design of equity was to try to combat the savageness of common law. Okay, but then we keep going farther and farther and farther, and then boom, 1871, and then boom, we start getting into all these codes, and then now we just have this gigantic fuckfest, right? So back in the common law days, everything was very, very simple. Everything was very, very Bible focused, and it was very, very simple. And there were trusts. Trusts were just contracts on how to deal with some kind of asset, whether it's my shit when I die, or whether it's a motorcycle, or whether it's a business or whatever. Just trusts were just, the definition of a trust is just a contract that basically is between trustees and beneficiaries that explain how some sort of asset will be administered. The trustee administers the asset. Let's say, for example, it could be a trademark on a book, and it's a book that's very popular. Let's say back in 1850, before the Civil War, or before the incorporated government, let's say I had a newspaper business. It wasn't even called a business back then. Let's say a newspaper trade organization. I think that's what they were called back then. And I wanted to have this guy operate it, and then I was going to be the one to receive the overall profit from it, right? So I would say, I would write up a contract, and it would say, this local printing shop, blah, 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 located at blah, 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 blah. Jim Jones is going to be operating the printing shop. He has the rights to hire people underneath him. He has this, he has that. I'm going to train him. He has to do this and this and this, and then he's going to get this amount of money every month, and then everything else is going to get paid to the beneficiary, which is going to be this guy or whatever. It's just a contract. And then the party signed the contract, and then that trust now becomes real, and then the trustee administers this asset. The asset would be the newspaper trade organization, and then the beneficiary would be him, and then now he can step off of that and basically essentially retire. That was basically it. There was no corporation. There was no anything with the government. If these people, this trustee and this beneficiary and these guys that are doing this particular activity, if they wanted local areas and towns to know that this information was what was going on, they could, as an option, go to what is called the county recorder. And they could pay a very, very small fee, and they could have this trust, or they could create what's called a certificate of trust, which is just it would be a real simple document that would say, announcement, certificate of trust. There is a trust that has now been opened between this party and this party. Some real basic information about it, and then that's it. So it would keep the original trust indenture private, and then on the public side, let's say there was some reason why they wanted the public to know that there was this trust and how it was going to work. That would get filed into the county recorder, and then now if anybody needed any information on that, they can go to the county recorder. The county recorder was sort of like the internet of that day. If you wanted to know, if you wanted to tap into what was going on in the world, as far as I know, that's where you'd go, or you'd go to the newspapers.
And so everybody, for the most part, knew. It was very basic back then. Everybody knew about trusts, and everybody had.
You could draw up. You could take a sheet of paper and just say, this car, this wagon, blah, my son's going to use it. But it was just kind of whatever. That you didn't file it anywhere. There wasn't any, it's just between me and the guy. There's nothing else. There's nobody else. So if he understands and I understand, you could make a trust with a handshake. And technically it would still be a trust. It wouldn't be written. So even in today's world, you have an express trust and an implied trust. An express trust would be written, very, very specific definitions, typically, ideally, very clear. An implied trust could be just, you shake my hand and you take my car and you use it, and then the proceeds of the Uber that you drive, I get part of it. That could be a trust. The res of the trust, which would be the asset of the trust, would be the car. And he would be the trustee because he's the one who's operating the res. And then I would be a beneficiary because I wouldn't have to do anything, and I would benefit from the activities of the trustee operating the res of the trust.
Got it. So going back to, I guess what I was asking was the origin of contracts.
If you start getting into going back that far, then you go into a lot of Bible verses and that kind of thing, and the Bible is sort of like the backbone of everything, common law and everything. You start going back far enough, but it's very, very simple. It's very simple. It's not like you need to go and read thousands and thousands of Bible verses. There's a handful, and that pretty much created everything. It wasn't like, you could probably fit all the main key Bible verses that equaled most of the things that you see in law and the legal world and contracts, and probably less than a page or a half page of quotes.
Could you reference one verse? I'm very curious.
No, not off the top of my head. I would need to go on my website or something and look. It's not something that I talk about a lot. It's not particularly, We live in a world now where everyone's so desperate. Most people viewing this information or trying to learn this information, they're not coming from a, oh, this is so interesting kind of a, they're coming from like a, I'm going to fucking die if I don't figure out whatever it is I'm trying to fucking figure out. Police are coming, the windows are getting bashed in. That's typically where a lot of people are at, or they're
when
just,
they come upon
or
this,
they're
like,
just financially struggling. Period, and they've been for 20 years, and they're just fucking sick and tired of it. But there's always some kind of, the amount of people that are just kind of sipping coffee and enjoying kind of like an evening read with this kind of stuff. It doesn't really, not a lot of that.
Very few.
So getting into stuff like Bible verses and this kind of stuff is not typically something I talk about a whole lot. I talked about it a little bit in the course, but I don't get into that kind of stuff too much because it's not really what the viewers are looking for. What the viewers are looking for is, in fact, what the viewers are looking for is how do I fly into action at 400 miles an hour within 48 hours, which is stupid and isn't going to work, and you're dumb. But that's where most people are at.
Yeah, and that's what your contract killer course is for.
Yeah,
just digesting it step at a time. Have you?
If I had to say like how long can it take for people to really start to take really serious changes? I mean, compared to even a few years ago, you're looking at years. Now you're looking at weeks. There's so much information everywhere. There's so many people that produce so much good content on the subject. It's unbelievable. Like if I were to share a few of them, we have some of my favorites. We have State Nationals Rock. State Nationals Rock. This guy's name is Kenny. I think it's Instagram. State Nationals Rock, right? This guy's got great content, really good stuff, lots of really good educational information, fun. Not, I don't like teachers that teach in really nasty, harsh, dogmatic, unfriendly, unpeaceful ways because it violates the definition of nation. It violates the definition of peace, and it puts the idea that we are a foreign government as per 18 U.S.C. 11 at risk. So I stay away from, there are a lot of that out there. You will find a lot of people very upset, very angry, very hostile about everything that's going on. I stay away from those people. I'm not associated with those people. So the people that I share with you are not going to be of that category, right? So we have State Nationals Rock. This is a great one. We have Moorish Lighthouse _official. This dude is absolutely fantastic. He is a specialist in what is called adverse possession, and he has multiple books. So adverse possession, basically the way that works is, in common law, before all of the crazy statutory bullshit, the way that you would claim a house or a property, especially as we were moving west and as the country was colonized, and actually even to this day in common law, it still operates the same way. You simply claim something, and if no one else claims it after a certain period of time, it's yours. End of story.
Technically squatting.
So the media, so squatting, if you want to get into the legal definitions of things, squatting would be you're claiming something of which someone else is also claiming, and they actually have a superior legal right to the property. Adverse possession is claiming a property and nobody else ever comes and claims it. So you have this property like this, and there's nothing going on with it. This dude got this house for free, 2-bath house on 1.5 acres. It's all fucked up. And he just moves in, and there's even ways you can say, hey, I'm announcing the fact that I'm taking this over. I don't know if anyone wants this. And you can put things in the newspaper, and you can do stuff. And if they don't actively come and claim the property, it's called adverse possession. You can take legal ownership of a piece of property. And that includes property that doesn't have a house on it. If it's just some plot of land and there's no house on it and you want it and there's nothing fucking going on with it, you can run adverse possession on it, right? It's some people don't like that idea. Some people think that that's a bad thing and blah, blah, blah. But when you realize how the banks finance all the mortgages and how the banks have stolen every single piece of property from all of us over the years through the insane banking and finance system of which I specialize in, trust me, you won't have any issues with adverse possession anymore.
I remember you saying people have gotten cars for free and people have gotten...
Oh, I've gotten tons. I've gotten like 90 cars for free.
Jeez.
Another one that I really enjoy
good.
is Monza Mahatha 888 IG. Monza Mahatha. This guy is fucking hilarious, dude. So this guy, if you like my teaching style and the really crazy kind of silliness, he's like he's what he calls the melanated. I don't say the word black because I asked him, I'm like, what do you prefer me to call you? He's like, melanated. I'm like, all right, fine. So he's the melanated version of me, I guess you could say. Really a lot of humor, very, very fun. His is very financial based. So a lot of the stuff that I specialize in and a lot of stuff that I do and all the financial shit and all that kind of shit that I do and all the litigation, it actually started with him. If it wasn't for this guy, I wouldn't even have my law firm. My litigation wouldn't even exist. This guy is the reason why I do what I do, and he is absolutely fucking hilarious. I mean, he calls it laugh and learn, and I'm telling you, he's very good at both. Extremely talented man, right? And he has huge events that he does all over the country, and he's very, very successful, and he has these massive Zoom calls that are like total fucking madness where there's like 700 people on there, and it's a lot of fun. He's a good guy, really, really good guy. He cares a lot. Really one of my favorites. I'm trying to think of some other people I could name, but truthfully, just those three alone, and then my stuff.
That's good enough.
You're gonna get, you start following me, and these guys are gonna get so many other accounts that are gonna pop up on your feed. It's gonna make your head spin, literally with instantly, like right away. You follow me and follow one of the other guys, and boom, you're gonna start getting all this stuff. It's gonna start coming on your feed, and you're gonna see all the other people. But a lot of them I don't like so much. The ones that are very convoluted, very confusing, or the ones that are very angry and hostile, I stay away from those people. I don't recommend those people at all. So 3-4 years ago there was almost none of this, and now it seems like every month there's somebody new exploding onto the scene. So
which is good. That's real good.
So much of this getting put out there. A lot of it does come from me, I will admit. I'm probably, at this point, from all the work I've done, one of the more prolific individuals here, but there's several of us that all have different teaching styles, and we all teach in different areas. Like, for example, Jaleel, Moorish Lighthouse official, he used to teach about everything, and now he specializes in adverse possession.
Adverse possession as in what?
Adverse possession, like what I was talking about earlier, where you have a piece of property and you claim it and nobody else claims it. It's unclaimed property.
Oh man. You do you, because you're specializing in the money and the infinite money area, what are your thoughts on everybody CBDC, crypto versus decentralized? Because it's almost like, if you understand what you're understanding and what you're helping people, you technically don't really need decentralized currency, but it's there.
The future is either going to be where the government and the Federal Reserve pays for everything and there is no money anymore, which is a definite option with the way things are headed, or the secondary option, which is, I think, more likely what's going to happen, is the 14th Amendment was never legally ratified. Once the 14th Amendment, and Congress has already said this, by the way, I have evidence on the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition page, as well as my Williams & Williams Law Firm page. You're going to see I have the actual congressional record from 1967 literally photocopied and placed on my website for evidence purposes. And they tell you that the 14th Amendment was never legally ratified. Right now, once that gets confirmed and acted upon, Federal Reserve notes won't exist anymore, because the District of Columbia, the United States, and Federal Reserve notes will all cease to exist, because they're all based off of the 14th Amendment. So when that happens, what's going to happen is the currency system is going to convert back to gold and silver coins that are produced individually by each individual state. The gold and the silver coins will pretty much have all of the same intrinsic value, but technically speaking, California will mint its own, New Mexico will mint its own, Texas will mint its own, but it's pretty much just an artistic design. In terms of the actual value, it'll be pretty much the same ounce, versus this, or a larger ounce versus this, or this versus this sizes of coins. And then if it's silver, it's a much lower denomination. And if it's gold, it's a much, much higher denomination. And we're going to go back to gold and silver coins. And each individual state will produce its own artistic version of said denominations. So let's say, for example, California wants to have a 10th ounce, an eighth ounce, a half ounce, and a full ounce. And, one state may have a bunch of types of gold and silver coins, whereas another state may have less or more. But that's about it. Besides that, you're going to have, it's all the same. All the same value.
You don't think there's going to be digital currency backed by gold and silver? Because
the definition of money, digital. If you look at the definition of money, it says gold and silver coins and does not embrace notes, evidences of debt, or real estate, or other things.
So if we can't walk around, or if I'm wondering how would that work, because
you'll go back to coins. So in the 1800s we had two things. We had gold certificates and silver certificates, and you can look them up very easily online. You can even buy them. I follow some really interesting accounts. Like, for example, I think there's one HCA auctions. Let me see here. Is it this one? No. I would need to look. There's a bunch of different auctions that have all sorts of old currency, and all they do, and I love that shit. I have all this stuff all over my desk. I can show you in a second. I have all these different types of currency and all this different types of stuff. So, let's see. What was I gonna? I'm totally spaced out all of a sudden. What was it? What was the question?
So you were talking about silver certificates.
Oh yeah, silver certificates. So silver.
So if you have gold and silver in a vault somewhere, you can be issued a silver certificate because that represents an actual piece of silver versus a promise. This is what when people say that we used to have real money and now we don't, that's actually true to some degree, actually, yeah. Because if you look here, so this is an old silver certificate, right? So now we have Federal Reserve notes, which just says $1. And then you say to yourself, okay, $1 of what? Nobody can answer it, right? There is no answer, right? Whereas back in the day, when you had silver certificates, you have $1 of what? $1 of silver, $1 silver dollar, right? And a silver certificate, the word certificate in the legal dictionary means a representation of something else. There's also another definition, which is evidence that an event took place. So a marriage certificate would be a piece of paper that is all the information that is the evidence that an event took place, called a marriage. This definition of the word certificate is a different definition, which means a representation of. Like, for example, when you get your pink slip from the state of California, let's say, for example, it's called a certificate of title. It's pretty shocking to find out that what a certificate of title means is literally, if you translate that into English, it means proof that a title exists someplace else. Your pink slip for your car is not a title. It's actually a security. It's actually a stock or a bond, like what you would see on the stock market, right? I'm not going to get into all that because I'm trying to stay away from that. But anyways, so
this is as close to real money as you're going to get. Payable to bearer on demand. What that means is if I hand this silver certificate, which means representation of silver, certificate means representation. If I were to go to the Treasury or wherever else and I were to present this as the bearer, so bear it, so extend it out and offer it, then I would be given in return $1 silver, okay? And that's what a silver certificate is, and the dollar amount actually had a real meaning. $1, $5 of silver would be, whatever, I don't know what maybe 1 ounce was considered $1 back then or whatever. So it'd be like the same thing as saying 1 ounce or 5 ounce or 10 ounces of silver, okay? And a gold certificate is the exact same thing, but obviously for gold, right? So,
well, these certificates, that's great and all, but unless we start printing those certificates, we're not going to be swapping that out. This sounds like it's going to be reintroduced later on when more and more people are aware of what's going on. Am I correct? Like, you're pretty much saying like this is pretty much the direction it's going to go back to, just because it sounds like as people get more familiar with how everything is all set up right now, which is not in their favor, in our favor as people, you're going to be able to mess with the system like crazy, and it can just get bananas until we actually revert back to the original system.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. We got a lot of people getting a lot of free shit.
Yeah,
right now.
It can only last for so long, though.
We'll see. I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that. Because the thing is that technically speaking, that is not true. Technically speaking, the Federal Reserve can print infinite money and everyone can have infinite money. And it does never end. Because what happens is at a certain point, it'll continue to inflate the currency, yes. But the thing is that if the inflationary value of the currency is irrelevant, meaning if a tomato costs 480 trillion Federal Reserve notes, but everyone had infinite money, and then the next day it went from 400 trillion to 800 trillion, and then the next day it was 400 quadrillion, who gives a shit? It doesn't mean anything. It's all free.
It's all free, but so then how do you choose what you are trading value-wise? Because
at that point, value. See, the whole thing is they wanted to attach 100% of the idea of value and consideration to these things called Federal Reserve notes. Prior to Federal Reserve notes, people did barter. People did all sorts of shit. Everything was just totally wide open. You could just sex and fucking prostitution. I mean, literally anything. It was just like everything it goes and there is no rules and nobody gives a fuck and you can do whatever you want. That is the reality of what the world really is, and that's the reality of what the world in its most native state actually is. And then gold and silver coins became a supplementary activity and a supplementary tool that was supposed to clarify and improve commercial transactions.
Got it. That's like the everything falls under down to the gold and silver instead of we're still working with this unlimited funds right now, but when it comes down to it, I do remember you saying the only thing that's actually money is gold and silver. So you can play the game.
Gold and silver coins.
So I can't give somebody a bar.
A silver bar is not technically money.
So what makes something a coin? Does it depend on where it's issued? I know.
You got to look it up. Yeah. I mean, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution says that the states are supposed to be the ones to coin those silver and gold coins. So I guess if you want to think about it from more of a constitutional aspect, it would be these small, round, easily exchangeable silver or gold discs that maybe have some kind of like a little bit of art on them or whatever that are issued through some sort of state regulated treasury. It'd be like the California Treasury. It wouldn't be the United States Treasury. That's all part of the incorporated world. It would be the California Treasury, the New Mexico Treasury, the Texas Treasury, the Louisiana Treasury, and that's how it would work.
Got it. Cool. Interesting.
This is a gold coin right here, issued actually by the Treasury.
Huh.
I can show it to you.
I have what I guess you can call it, what is it, dirty silver or whatever? Junk silver. There you go, that's a buffalo. Sexy. Oh my God. So how much is that worth?
Well, shit. Like three or 4 days ago, it was like $2,700, and now it's like $3,500. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah.
Well, if you're an expert in infinite money, it doesn't matter, right? That's actually a play thing, right? At this point.
Well, I play both worlds. I play the money world and I play the negotiable instruments world. So I play both sides of the equation. I'm like a banker on both sides.
For both of your names, for both of your identities.
You got it. Yeah, I have one for inside the system and I have one for outside the system. So I enjoy money and then I also enjoy currency. They're both a lot of fun, and currency is exciting because currency is, at this point in time, because no one knows any of this information, it's accepted everywhere. When more and more people start to learn about this information, there's going to be a lot of people. I think Texas is going to be the first place where they're not going to accept Federal Reserve notes anymore.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Ooh. Are you prepared?
So now at that point, you're going to get pushed out of the currency game, and then now you're going to be on the money game, because if they stop taking Federal Reserve notes, then the infinite money thing won't work anymore.
Mm.
So it all just comes down to, you know, what's going to happen, and things are going pretty crazy. So we'll see. But I like working both sides, because if I'm ever somewhere where they do decide to kind of go in that direction, then all this infinite money stuff and currency and Federal Reserve notes, it's irrelevant. You can't do anything with it. So I think the direction this country is going, I truly strongly believe that it is going towards gold and silver coins, and I think. One of the main reasons why I believe that is because once more people catch on to the 14th Amendment, there's going to be, I think, very soon here in the next 2 or 3 years, that 14th Amendment is going to go bye-bye. Mm. And when that 14th Amendment goes bye-bye, all this infinite money stuff and all this financial stuff and all the Federal Reserve notes and all that shit, it all goes bye-bye instantaneously.
Once enough people know about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm just kind of riding the wave until that happens. I'm thrilled about that happening. I'm 100% supportive of that occurring, and I'm 100% supportive of that not occurring. I could care less either way. So whatever happens, and I'm going to work both sides until that does happen, and then by the time it does happen, you know, it's fine with me. Sounds great. I carry around a small little baggie all the time because I never want to be broke. And it's a little baggie like this. And it has, I've probably lost a couple over the years, but it has, originally it had 10 little 1 gram silver coins. And you can actually buy this little pouch. And it has all these little 1 gram silver coins, just tiny itty bitty little silver coins with these little symbols on them. They're smaller than dimes. This one has a Freemason symbol on it. This one has a skull and bones. There's all these random ass symbols on there. This entire pouch with the little coins was like $26 on Amazon. I was told I overpaid. I'm like, I don't give a fuck, bro. $26, right? $26. You get the little pouch, and you get the little silver coins. And this is where I think we're headed. So. I like to carry around currency,
just in case everything switches when you're out and about.
No. It's just a immersion. I got all this stuff. I got a buddy of mine who produces these custom coins. I bought all his shit. I got $1,800 worth of his shit on here. I've got Slojamistan, the Republic of Slojamistan, of which I'm a parliament member. They have their own currency called doubles. They have coins and paper currency.
That's great.
So I have doubles here. I have what else do I have? I have the gold coin. I have these things, which some people have probably seen, called goldbacks. I found these to be pretty interesting.
That's what I was talking about. I've heard more about goldbacks.
So here you open up this, and you go like this.
Oh, that's freaky.
Right? And these are...
For anybody listening, it looks like just shiny money.
It looks like a foil, like Pokemon cards.
It does.
It looks like, but like really intense, like even more intense than a foil Pokemon card, like really fucking intense, right?
So that's really thin gold.
So it's like a fraction of an ounce or something for each one of these. It's not
Flatten
all gold. It's just it's gold. Gold is infused to each one, and they have these different denominations. It's one of what, you know what I mean? And it even says right on it, negotiable instrument. And the reason why is because these technically are not money either, because it has to be a coin to be money. Do you see? So it literally says right on it, a negotiable instrument, which is the same thing as a Federal Reserve note. So we're still not all the way to money with these. This is actually just another type of currency like a Federal Reserve note, whereas this is money. This is a negotiable instrument, but this is closer to this than a Federal Reserve note. You see?
Got it. So I would love to do a different episode just on money, because I know now that I know that that's what you're specialized in, I can ask you about that stuff, and I'm sure everybody would be interested in that. Are you down for that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I would say maybe to close us out, because we went that direction of where things could go, could you walk me through a day where you would have like coins in your pocket or something and you're going to buy something, and how that would have you processed that in your head, like what that would look like? Because I think people are having a hard time understanding what a world would look like with coins in your pocket, and even if that's positive.
Well, yeah, because inflation would cease to exist. So the value of the money in your pocket now is like shit. The value of the money in your pocket, like that, what I just showed you right there, I mean, Jesus fuck. Just this little pouch with these 10 coins, I mean, you're looking at probably what would be considered, I don't know, if we went all the way back to the gold and silver standard, these are like, probably one of these could buy you like a whole meal, maybe. Something like this could buy you like a whole meal or fill up your whole gas tank. You're not carrying around this gigantic fucking thing.
Yeah, because they're tiny. Well, 1 ounce.
You could have just one little pouch like this. This would be your wallet, okay? And you would have a few of these, and you'd have a few larger and medium-sized ones, and they would just fit in there, and you would just stick this in your pocket. And actually, in fact, this would take up less space than Federal Reserve notes, because if you look at my wallet, and you have even a small wallet like this, you have these Federal Reserve notes, and it can take up more space actually than a little baggie full of silver. And then gold is a whole nother ball game. I mean, if you have like little tiny gold coins, oh shit, you could buy like a whole car with that. So
just don't get robbed.
Yeah, that's where things get complicated, right? Because now you're looking at getting robbed and all this kind of stuff. And that's how banking started. Banking started where it's like, why would you want to carry around this stuff when you can get robbed? Why don't you? But you got to think, what probably happened is they probably paid and trained people to go out and rob people to justify the banking system in the first place. Yeah. Do you see? So it goes back to all sorts of goofiness. Dirty. But the thing is it's like, now we're carrying around little certificates or gold certificates because people don't want to carry around the gold coins and stuff like that, right? And that's how the whole negotiable instrument system was born, because negotiable instruments are abstracts of money. They represent money, which is why they use the word certificate. Certificate is something that represents something else. Gold certificate, silver certificate, you see?
The USDebtClock.org, is that laughable to you or interesting?
I don't know. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know who runs it. I don't know much about it, to be honest.
That's what I keep saying. Everybody's like, oh, reference. I'm like, but who is behind that? It's just a site.
I have no idea. No idea.
Interesting. Huh. Well, we covered a lot. We got like a whole lesson in the beginning, and then we dabbled around a little bit, and I'm pretty sure I perked a bunch of people's ears on the money side. Yeah, man, this has been a wild ride. for you, it's just another day.
Yeah.
How many podcasts have you been on? Are you counting?
Probably
Or are you just plowing?
150, 200, 150, 200, something like that.
Jesus.
And they're all 2 hours to 3 hours every single time.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we'll do like an hour and a half. Now I'm looking at 2 hours and 42 minutes.
Yeah. That's
Oh my God. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Spreading the word, making sure we all know this. And I'm actually pretty, I'm probably going to have a headache tomorrow because I thought I had a hand on this.
So that's a couple of years ago. So this presentation is including all the information that's been divulged since that point.
Yeah, and I was hoping that you would go with that direction. You did. Because your course is like how many hours? Like 20 hours?
25 hours of material, yeah.
Yeah. And you crunched that. And I'm still catching
So you're
up,
not going to
but
see a lot of this stuff in this show in the course because that was when I was first starting and I was first putting it all
2022.
together. Yeah, so.
Cool.
And if we do another show or if you see me in another show in a year or two, it'll probably be, who knows? I don't know how I can get much better than this, but naturalization, I feel like really is the bottom of the fucking barrel. But who knows? Who knows? I thought I had it all, bottom of the barrel probably. I don't know if I thought that, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows? You know what I mean?
I gotcha. All right, well, Brandon Joe Williams, thanks for coming on the show. And I think next time we got to go into that money.
Let's do it.
Till next time. Peace.